listening to The Power of Being Positive, helping you discover strategies to unleash the uplifting, energizing, and motivating power of being positive and the awesome effects that it can have in your life. Getting ready to power you up in 3, 2, 1.
And welcome back to The Power of Being Positive. I am your host, David Clark. And in this episode, I've got another special guest. I hope you've enjoyed the last 3 guests that I've had on. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those episodes yet, please feel free to go back and listen. We had Pete Blank on, who was a Disney veteran, who talked about ways to leave a positive impression. Then I also had Brett McCabe on, who is a clinical sports psychologist, and he talked about ways to deal with high-stress situations. And then I had Jordan Stupar on, who is a sales and marketing expert who is running a tech startup now in the CRM field, and he talked about ways to overcome adversity. Well, in this episode, I've got another special guest on who's been a longtime friend for probably the last 5 years now. He's always got a positive word or a kind thought to give to people as he meets them. But what has really got this episode kind of started off, and the reason I wanted to really talk to him the most was the fact that he is a high achiever. And I'm going to read his resume to you just real quick, and you'll understand why. So he is a PhD, and he is a practicing attorney. That's right. So he's a doctor and an attorney. His education is unreal. He has his psychology degree. He has his master's degree in organizational leadership. He has his doctorate in philosophy, and he has his Juris Doctorate from law school. So he is a supreme high achiever in life and education and everything that he does. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Ronnie Rice, attorney at law. Welcome to the show, Ronnie.
Hey, what's going on, DC, man? It's a pleasure to be over here with you, man. Thank you for the invite, man. Funny that you talk about all my accolades, man, but the stuff that you've been achieving over the years, man, is just life-changing. And for you to even come up with a podcast like this shows how your commitment to just helping others, man. And that's always been your attitude ever since I've met you. So, man, big congratulations to you. Big ups to you, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Kind of like we talked earlier, I mean, the whole point of any of this stuff is to help be a source of encouragement to others. And then if we can do that, if we can contribute one small thing to somebody to help them live a better life, even if it's just one word that we give them, a smile, whatever, that's kind of what it's about. As you and I have talked before, man, like one of the things that's always kind of interests me, and I'm sure you get this question all the time, is it takes a certain type of person to have the drive and determination to kind of go through all the educational direction that you've been to accumulate the different designations and things like that you have. And so talk us through this a little bit. Where do you find the focus, the drive, and the determination to kind of really, go that route and to stick with it and to, kind of persevere through it all? Because, just life in general has the ability to kind of throw roadblocks and speed bumps and everything else in people's way, and just in a normal day-to-day life, much less going through the high level of achievement that you've had.
Right. Let me start by saying this, man. I'm not always motivated. And the reason why I want to say that, because I think when you listen to a lot of podcasts and you listen to a lot of books and stuff like that, I think people have a misconception that, because you read the Gary Vee books or the Grant Cardone books, that they're always motivated. Hey, I'm not always motivated, but however, when I set my focus to do something, I've always looked back to my why. I know that sounds cliche, but I always look back to my why. Why did I even start on this journey? Like, what was I don't want to say motivation, because I feel like motivation is answering the question with answering the definition with the question. of the question. But for me, it was always the why. I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school. I could have easily sat at home and worked a job and probably would have made a good living and not desired to go to further my education. But my why was that, hey, I wanted to prove to myself and others that, hey, even though no one else in my family have, achieved high school graduation, even though my mom and dad did finish their GED, they didn't go to they didn't go to college. They didn't actually walk across stage for various reasons. So for me, my motivation was to say, hey, I can do this. It has to be more to life than this. I grew up where a lot of single parent moms, drugs, things of that sort. And, for me, it has to be something better than this. And then also, the huge chunk was my faith. My faith meant a lot for me. And because I didn't have those guidelines, I didn't have those mentors at an early age to say, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So for me, I would say my motivation was essentially to, that it has to be something better than this. And also to prove others wrong and prove myself right. Because, you always hear people like Les Brown and things like that would say you had teachers that would talk down to them, and that would say, hey, you had a learning disability, or you'll be just like your mom, you can be like your dad. Or really, a lot of people I know that are successful, extremely successful, they really just started off just want to provide for their family. And they found challenges and they said, okay, hey, you're not trying to, for me, I always thought, hey, I'm not trying to kill. I'm not trying to steal. I'm not trying to, steal money from, a grocery store or something like that. I'm just trying to make money to feed my family. And when I started facing roadblocks, I was like, hey, what are my other options? My other options is, hey, go rob somebody, go steal, go cheat, or something like that. And I was like, well, no, that's not what I want to do. So I said, okay, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to find different ways. I'm not just going to stop at this first roadblock. So for me, I know that's no long response to your question, but my motivation simply was to prove everybody else wrong, prove to myself that I was right, my faith. And then also and I'll say this last part because that's kind of what I started off with. Even though you're not always motivated, it's okay to take a rest. And with those down moments where, maybe I ain't have enough money to, eat out or something like that. I ate some ramen noodles and stuff like that and rested and picked myself back up,
Yeah, man, I'm with you on that. I am by far not always positive. I'm not always the most motivated person. And we all, and the thing about it is, the key is not if you fall down. Do you have the tools to pick yourself back up?
Right.
And so that's, as you work through different situations and things like that, for me, like a few years ago, when I was with a former company and stuff like that, and I left, and during that time, it was tough on me mentally. And so I had to try to, I went into kind of a deep, dark, downward spiral. And so what I finally on my end is I decided that, look, I wanted to, I got to figure out a way to get out of this. It's all mental. And so you got to start acquiring tools so that, that like when you do have one of these bad times, you gotta reset yourself faster, right? You can just be like,
oh yeah,
you've got the mental tools, and that's what I call them. It's probably not the correct term, but this is what I've categorized them as. And you've just got mental tools that you've got in place to where you can bounce back faster. And that's what it's all about. It's not, people want to get down. It's like, well, I can't, I'm not positive, or I'm this, or I'm that. And it's like, no, right. You're wrong. Right. What you're not doing is you just don't have the tools to bounce back. So
absolutely, man. Because for a long period of time, man, I kind of shied away from all these motivational gurus and things that sort, because I was like, hey, man, maybe I just wasn't born with it. It's kind of like the Facebook and social media effect, right? Everybody's posting how great they are, right? And how they travel in this country and how they host this big deal on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything like that. And so you start looking at yourself wrong, right? You start like, well, what the heck am I doing wrong? I woke up this morning and I thought I wanted to start a company, and I thought I had people that was going to come to me for products and services, but it made it look differently. But I see, Joe Blow over here and on social media, he looks like he's doing well. But what they don't talk about is, hey, when you hit those dark moments, because we all hit them, I've hit them several times.
Yep.
It's like, like you say, what tools are in your bag or that's in your toolbox that you can reach out and say, okay, all right, I've been here before. What do I need to do to pull myself out? Because now, and also what you don't want to be is like the positive junkie, right? And what I mean by that, the positive junkie is nothing's ever wrong. Well, I'm not saying that, you need to be negative Nancy, but at the same time, if you see something that's about to blow up in your face, you need to step back and correct yourself and figure out how to fix that situation.
Absolutely. It's all about realization. It's kind of funny. I some of the podcasts I'll listen to the John Maxwell podcast once or twice a week, just picking through different ones. And one of the most recent ones from his podcast is, it was basically that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of the success process. And so, so that's kind of a deep, deep quote. If you think about it, it's like people think that, well, I've failed or I'm not being successful, therefore I'm not going to have success. When you just got to understand that's just kind of, it's part of the process,
Yeah. And you can't gauge your success and failure in life by a short moment or period in time. Right.
Right.
So think about it. And I heard somebody say this and it made so much sense to me a long time ago. It's like a kid that's learning how to walk can fall 20 times. Would you as a parent tell that kid to stop trying after the 20th time? No. At those 20 different times, they fail at walking, but that doesn't mean they're never going to walk. And I think in society, we have to start crafting our mind. And David Goggins says, create this catalyst on your mind that, hey, even though that moment you might have failed, doesn't mean you're going to fail at it all the time. Or, it's anybody who's played golf, knows that, you go play golf, you might feel like you failed and, you played for 20 years. It just depends on, what's your attitude, what you hit like that day.
What's the greatest lesson that you've ever learned?
The greatest lesson, oh man, that's a good one. I would say probably two. One is to love everybody. Reason why I think I say always because nobody's ever asked that question. The reason why I would say one of the biggest things I've learned is to love everyone is because everybody's going through something, okay?
Yep.
I mean, and I need those who are listening to understand. Everybody's going through something, whether it's your supervisor, whether it's your colleague, whether it's your kids, whether it's your ex-husband, your ex-wife, whether it's your fiance, whether it's your dog, your cat. Everybody, every being on this earth is going through something. And the reason why I feel like this is important because it would change how you interact with people when you're trying to get stuff done. And what I mean by that is, say for instance, you got this big project you're working on. It's a $100 million project. And you have somebody, the project manager, just screaming down your neck because you're a vendor and you got to get some things done. Well, that guy, the reason why the vendor is screaming or that girl is screaming is because he's trying to get this project done for whatever reason. It might be something going on at home or something like that. So the moment that you realize that, the moment you can step away and say, all right, okay, Mrs. Susie or Mr. John, like, I understand you're frustrated. I know you want to get this materials to this job site, but, here's what's going on. And you can connect with those people, and people are going to want to do more business with you. People are going to feel like you understand them. People are going to want to trust you. And in the name of success game, really, I don't care what area in the world or the sector that you're in, it's about people. It's about relationships. Because people make up organizations. I don't care what the profit line is. Because I guarantee you, if you take the 5,000 people that were laid off from GM a couple weeks ago, like all 5,000 of those people, those jobs meant a lot to them. Now you take the executive, the CEO, who's making umpteen $1 million. If you take that job away from her, it's gonna be totally different. So everybody's going through something, and it's gonna allow you to interact with them differently to get the job done. The second thing I would say is most important is that you're not a product of your circumstances. Everybody has a set of tools in their bag, whether it's naturally or learned. We all have a set of tools in our bags that we can get that we can get ourselves out of whatever funk or whatever life dilemma that has been presented to us. So whether you're a silver spoon baby or whether you grew up on the south side of the projects, don't just think because someone has a whole bunch of money that they're not going through something, that they just because somebody doesn't have a whole bunch of money means that they're going through something. I mean, it's just all depending on that person. I've seen some of the people who have the most money and going through the most stuff. And I've seen people who have no money is not going through nearly as much stuff. So those are two things I would say: love one another, and that you're not a product of your circumstance. So you can always change it. The changing variable is time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, one of the things that my oldest son and I coach him a little bit on things, and it's coaching that I never had when I was coming through high school and stuff like this.
Right.
But I try to give him a little bit of, food for thought and stuff like that before school every morning. And one of the things that I talk to him about is, and it's something that I try to give the 9-year-old this knowledge too, but didn't understand it yet. But it's pray for someone before you ever criticize them. And it just goes back to what you're talking about, because you don't know what somebody's going through. You don't know what someone's been through to cause them to act the way that they're acting. So instead of criticizing them for what they're doing, just do some prayer for them and reach out and be kind.
Right.
Kill them with kindness.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying, and let me say this too, because I definitely don't want, I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and I have a 1-year-old, and I'm quick to tell people, hey, you're not going to be a floor mat. I'm not saying,
no. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I am from the hood now.
Yeah.
So
I'm from the country. I've never told him to lay down and let someone run over him. But who are your main sources of motivation? Where do you go to find positive encouragement and motivation?
That's a good question. I'm a big movie person, and I will always just look at myself as I would kind of see different people in movies and kind of interject myself into those roles.
That's cool.
And so for me, and it kind of goes back from what my mom has told me a long time ago. If you don't have a role model, take good qualities from different people and make them to your own.
There's a term in this book that I read, this NLP book, and it's called mirroring. So you mirror the qualities of the people that you want to be like.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's like, let's be honest. We're not all perfect. We all got some flaws. So if we were to say that only one person is the motivation to who we become, then we're basically trying to emulate their good qualities as well as their bad qualities. And so one of the things that I would say is that I have a lot of role models that I look at and that I value some of the traits that they do possess. And I guess to answer to more thoroughly answer that question, growing up, I would say, so I have, Freeman Osteen, who you don't know. He was a community leader because he's the one who told me how to invest stocks. And then I had Mervyn Thomas, who's the unit director for Boys and Girls Club that I was in. And he was one of the first men in my life that taught me how to tie a tie and make sure the gut line was tight and everything. To when I finally got to college, one of my mentors was Dr. Ruby J. Bird. She's one of the individuals who started Upward Bound program, which what that kind of program is, it brings first generation high school graduates to colleges and get them experience college. Then they went to my godfather, Dr. Adolph Brown, who's a motivational speaker. Who used to travel. I used to travel around the world, and he kind of opened the doors to there's a different way of living. So, for me, it was always those individuals that would kind of touch me. Now, don't get me wrong. I look at the David Goggins. I look at the Tony Robbins. I look at the pastors, the mega church pastors, all these guys. And I don't take anything away from them. But for me, I will always look at those people who kind of personally touch my life, because I can say, if they can do it, I know I can. As opposed to somebody who's on a big grandstand,
Yeah.
And you're like, I know Tony Robbins, put his work in. I know he did what he had to do. I know Wayne Dyer did the same thing, but they're so far ahead. You just like, I don't know if they really can, if I can really connect with them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey man, and having those mentors it's important kind of growing up. It's one of the things that I feel like to an extent that I didn't necessarily have coming through the ranks. So, so once I really found people to kind of start to mirror to an extent, listen to more and things like that, that's when a lot of things really, my eyes finally started to open up more. And that was well into my professional career by the time I came across a lot of that stuff. I mean, I had some, sales managers and things like that along the way that kind of set a good example. And then through the process of, I've had some different business coaches and things like that come in and out. But at the time, it's kind of funny, when you think about it, I wasn't ready to receive those messages, because my brain wasn't in that mode. So, so it's just kind of one of those things, where, when you've got someone with a personal connection, like the people that you mentioned earlier, it's often easier to get that. What are some of the books and things like that you're kind of reading that you think maybe some of the listeners may be interested in?
Some of my favorites is Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, Viktor Frankl, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Let's see, The 7 Effective Habits of Winning Friends. Those are the core that I love, man. And I kind of get to some old ancient stuff, which is Message to Garcia, which is an old one. So I think you are a combination of what you read. And so for me, I always tell people, read, write, listen to podcasts. Man, that's the way to, change your mindset. And I don't think people understand the importance of using all those mediums. And what I mean by that is that if we are constantly in the same bubble of individuals in our day-to-day life, there's not going to be too much of a new thought or a new idea. Okay. So if you just go to work, socialize with your colleagues, go to your wife, go to your kids, school events, sports games, church, and you do all that over. You do that every week. There's no new idea. There's no new substance. There's no new creation. But when you start listening to podcasts that, Ryan Stewman is doing, or Frank Kern is doing, or Brad Bearden is doing, that are providing different types of content and ways of thinking. Now it forces you to look at what you're going through in your daily life differently. And hopefully that gives you some opportunities, some insights on how to successfully navigate what you got going on.
Yeah, different people's perspective will often kind of spark some kind of creativity. That's the cool thing. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to hop on this and talk with us or talk with me about all this stuff, dude. I've wanted to get on with you and have a conversation about what it's like to be Dr. Rice, attorney at law, and and what it took to really get there, dude. Because that, in all honesty, dude, I've got outside of you just being a friend and just being an awesome dude. I've got a ton of respect for you for that because I know that, I've only got a marketing degree and I had to start and stop a few times to make it happen. So I couldn't imagine what it would have taken to go through and get, everything that you did related to that. But anyway, man, like I said, I really appreciate your time. And as we kind of wrap this up, do you have any one last final thought that you want to throw at us before we hit the end button?
My final thought is you never fail if you never give up. Okay. I know that sounds horrible. I know it sounds cliche. I know it sounds whatever it is you're thinking about it. But think about it. No matter where you are in your current state, I don't care if you're a bus driver. I don't care if you're a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. I don't care if the third quarter numbers don't look right. Time is going to pass. You're not going to be stuck there, okay? You're just not stuck there. All it takes is you taking those initial steps, evaluating where you are and where you want to go, and working backwards, putting those things in small steps, and making those steps to dig yourself out of that hole. I think too many times the problem is folks don't want to focus on the problem, and then not focus on the problem, then you don't focus on the solution, and you kind of just waddle there, right? So don't waddle there. You're like, don't be, just because you failed yesterday doesn't mean you have to fail today. Crush it, make it the best that you can be, because I guarantee you keep going, you'll beat all your competitors. But you got to face that problem and come up and figure out where it is that you want to go, and then work backwards. Put those small steps in place.
Yeah, Russell Simmons has an awesome quote in his book. I don't know if you've read it, but there are no failures, just quitters.
Oh man, I love that. I'm tweeting that, by the way. I'm putting it on my tweets. So,
well, Ronnie, man, again, dude, thanks so much for coming on the show. And I really do appreciate your time again, man. So, but with that, we're going to end this episode. So everybody, thank you for listening along to the show. If you would do me a favor and, leave us a rating and review and let us know what your thoughts are on, this episode, on any of the other previous episodes. I'd really appreciate it. But with that, have a great day, and you'll hear from us again soon.
You've been listening to the Power of Being Positive podcast. To get more tips sent to your inbox, visit powerofbeingpositive.com.